What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So earlier this week I did do a video about Duke in the draft lottery and certain things that happened, but I just felt like it was incomplete and couldn't really get enough that I wanted to in 3 minutes plus. After waiting a couple more days, now there has been a lot more Duke news that has happened. So either way, I was gonna have to do a longer form video. So we'll just start off that last video like this. So yes, I believe the Dallas Mavericks, who won the NBA draft lottery this last Monday, had only like the third or fourth best odds to get all the way up to number one, like almost under 1% or something like that. It was pretty crazy, but yes, of course, they've jumped up 10 spots to the number one area, which was the highest rise in NBA draft lottery history, which is pretty crazy. But yes, at least the only positive thing we get out of this, other than maybe thinking the NBA is rigged, that Cooper Flagg is joining 2X Duke Blue Devils and Kyrie Irving and Derek Lively the second there in Dallas. And you know, there's a lot of talk right after that he might, at least that pick might get traded. So who knows if it's going to be the star in Milwaukee, which I doubt it, because kind of Giannis doesn't really make sense playing next to Anthony Davis, in my opinion. And plus they have too many bigs too. Obviously they give up quite a bit of people, but either way it still kind of doesn't really make sense. But when it came to like mocks, where a lot of these, like at least 5 Duke players could be going, they were in like a lot of different areas where they were mocked. I know obviously Cooper has been number one, but like Concanupo has been projected like 7th, 8th, 5th, 10th, and 6th. Come on, Malawach has been projected 9, 7, 9, 7, and 8th. And Tyrese Proctor is kind of all over the board. He's either as high as 37 and 38 or as low as 52, 53, and 50, so almost out of the second round. And then even Sion James as high as like 46, 47, 49th, and then as low as 53rd and 58th respectively. So yeah, that's pretty cool. At least in mocks, they're at least getting 5 of those players drafted, which is really awesome. Maybe Isaiah Evans would have been a late second round pick too, but he didn't like that news either. But I'll get into that right after the bigger news. But yeah, hopefully all these 5 guys will have new NBA homes pretty soon. And then speaking of Jason Tatum, who was having a career game in the playoffs, that other game against New York, he had 42 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 steals. But then, yes, sadly, he went down. I think it was either a third or fourth quarter, and it looked like the next day we found out it was a torn Achilles, which really sucked. But yes, I believe he already had successful surgery and is expected to make a full recovery. It's just whenever guys have these type of injuries, it could be anywhere from like 8 to 14, 16 months. You know, it's pretty crazy, the timeline. And if that's the case, then he could almost miss all of next season too. Maybe be back for the playoffs if the Boston Celtics end up advancing to the second or third round, maybe even the NBA Finals. But yeah, that's just wishful thinking right now. But hopefully he takes his time, talk to Kevin Durant, a couple other players that went through it, and see how they're doing to still be successful. And yes, speaking of Isaiah Evans, yes, as I mentioned earlier, he has withdrawn from the NBA draft and will not attend the Combine week, and he will be back for his sophomore season. So yeah, that was great news. Obviously, bringing back one of their sharpshooters. I don't know if he just didn't hear as much of good news as he wanted and didn't even want to bother going through like the whole process and stuff, the interviews and all that camp. But either way, glad he is back. But there's still some word that Cedric Howard, that transfer player from Washington State, still might end up staying in the NBA draft process. So all of a sudden, this player from, I believe he's from France. He's an Italian prospect. His name is Dame Sarr. But Sarr, I think that there's a Frenchman last year got drafted with the last name Sarr too. But he's a 6'6" shooting guard. Apparently, he had visited Kansas recently, but now Duke is kind of rising up to be the place where he's going to land. And I guess he would have been like a late first, early second pick if he declared, but it looks like he's now pivoting towards Duke, which is pretty interesting. And then I think in one of his more recent games in the Nike Hoops, he had 17 points, 4 rebounds, and a steal. And a couple of projections from a couple of the writers out there have put him to choose Duke. So maybe that's just more official news that Coward is staying in the draft and sadly won't ever play for Duke. But now they're getting a nice replacement who could help them out, at least this season, from overseas. So we'll see. And then they did get another transfer portal player from Princeton, and Jack Scott, who's a 6'6" wing, entering his final year. He's an okay player, but he really is just more of a bench guy to help them out during practice and stuff. So I don't really expect him to play throughout the season unless it's garbage time. So we'll see who else they end up getting during the portal. And then there was a pretty talented player, 2027 quarterback, and Elijah Haven, who was recently offered by Duke football. So that was pretty cool. And then one of the top 10 safeties to know, according to PFF, in the 2026 NFL Draft, Terry Moore was on that list. And even like Kamari Ramsey from USC was on that list too. But according to PFF, he's like the number 7th ranked returning safety in this class. So yeah, that was really cool. And then running back 4-star Corey Amatri, he recently released a top 6 and Duke made his list. That was awesome. And then the women's softball tournament, it looks like they're going to be hosting, obviously, and then they get to play against Howard, and then the other game is Georgia against Coastal Carolina. So as long as they continue to win the next couple of days, they should be fine, and then play. It's always weird how the losers still end up playing each other, and then the winners of those loser games end up playing the winner who should have already advanced, but somehow the winner of that game or whatever of most of those games still has to play against the loser, even if they had just beat them, and they could end up getting upset and all that stuff and getting knocked out of the tournament. I don't know how that works for softball, but I guess that's the way it goes. And then there was an all-region team, according to the NFCA, and obviously a lot of Duke women were on there, so that was great. And then looks like an ex-catcher from Duke signed with one of the teams in the professional league, the AUSL, and Kelly Torres, so congrats to her. Speaking of those women, yes, they defeated Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken, who that was 12-0 earlier on today. So yeah, that was great. I didn't see who they get to play between Georgia or Coastal Carolina, but hopefully they get that victory again on Saturday. And then comes to the men's baseball team. Yes, they lost that game 1 to Clemson the other day, but then had a series upset victories consecutively. They defeated them in game 2, 15-10, and then 8-4 in game 3. And then because of those wins, they were now ranked number 20 in the nation earlier this week. And then they also defeated Georgia Tech, I believe that was on Friday today, 14-4, which is now the 800 career win for the head coach. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. Hopefully they can get this series right before tournament play ends up starting soon. And the women's lacrosse team did pretty well in the tournament. That first game in the first round they had against James Madison, they defeated them 17-10. Then their next game, they advanced to play Virginia and defeated them 17-9. And now they are advancing to the Elite 8, which was great. And I believe during one of those games, Eva Pronti had a new program record with 48 assists. So congrats to her. And then a couple of USA Lacrosse All-American honorable mentions, Carly Bernstein and Kaylee Hem from Duke. And then, yes, sadly, they did lose to a tough team in Florida, 9-11. So they are out of the tournament. I know the IWLCA Division I All-Region, a couple of their players were on there. Also, the All-America honorable mentions were also Kaylee Hem and Carly Bernstein. So yeah, a couple of nice accolades for the women. Sadly, they did lose in the Elite 8, so almost made it to the Final Four in the championship game, but at least they made a nice run. So good luck next year. Thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.